Sure. I will put him on. All right, thank you.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Linda Berg-Herring. I'm a licensed private investigator, and I'm here representing Million Kids, which is a nonprofit that was created for the purpose of, for the purpose of hopefully protecting you all from predators that are out there in the real world, and especially online. There's all kinds of stuff that goes on online that we want to keep you safe from. So, right, okay. Okay. So today we're going to talk about several different things, but predominantly giving you some information to help you stay safe, helping you be a leader to protect your younger siblings and friends, because really the kids that are even younger than you guys are in more danger of bad guys out there in the real world and online than you are. And then show you what to look for when interacting with strangers, especially online. 5G is really cool for the internet. It's great. It gives you access to all kinds of things you didn't have before. It also gives bad guys access to you. So right now, people that live in the middle of nowhere, out in the jungle in some other country, have iPads, and they can communicate with you. So you need to be careful out there, and you need to know who you're talking to. Every country in the world will soon be online, and I'm talking literally everywhere. You see those movies with the Aborigine people out in the bush? They're online. They don't have anything else, but they're online. And you, unfortunately, can also reach anyone, anywhere. So, what is sex and human trafficking? Human trafficking involves the use of force, fraud, or coercion to obtain some type of labor or commercial sex act. Every year, millions of men, women, and children are trafficked worldwide, including right here in the United States. A lot of people think it doesn't happen here. Have any of you seen the movie Sound of Freedom? You should all see it. It discusses a gentleman named Tim Ballard who created Operation Underground Railroad. I know him, I've worked with him. He does some great stuff in other countries, and he's working on it here too. Victims can be any race, gender, or nationality. It's not just people that are from other countries, it's people right here. It can happen everywhere, even in your supposedly safe communities. The average age that sex trafficking begins is between 11 and 14. Human trafficking, especially sex trafficking, is the fastest growing criminal industry in the world, second only to the drug trade, and it's catching up. Pretty soon it will be making more money than the drug trade. That's terrifying. Family members exclusively traffic most children under the age of 10. That's also terrifying. Moms and dads and aunts and uncles are trafficking their children. The first trafficking case I ever worked as an investigator was 42 years ago, and it was a 10-year-old girl who was kidnapped by her uncle, who did horrible things to her and then sold her to others. So they didn't call it trafficking back then, but that was exactly what it was. 74% of child trafficking cases involve sex trafficking, and the majority of those involve pimp-controlled prostitution. That's kind of changing, but those are also allowed on the street. The United States, unfortunately, is one of the worst countries globally for human trafficking, with 199,000 incidents occurring per year. Not all human trafficking involves forced labor. A lot of it is sex. A lot of it is, there's other things. It's believed that 1 in 5 human trafficking victims is a child. So it's not just adults. California consistently has the highest number of human trafficking rates in the United States. We need to stop being overachievers in that area. That's not good. We need to overachieve in stopping it. 90% of sex trafficking cases in Southern California are related to gangs. Cartels and organized crime rings, they run international trafficking rings through the Ivory Coast, Ivory Coast and the Philippines. I should just be throwing these. Social media is used in 90% of cases, so we're going to talk about that a lot. Sextortion and social media cases have greatly increased during COVID, and that's because you all were stuck at home And.
What is sextortion?
Okay.
Oh.
Good question. We will get there. You know, during COVID, we were all stuck at home. Well, so were the bad guys. So they found better ways, so to speak, to interact with kids and to groom potential victims. More victims are being enticed to leave home without notice, and that's people convincing kids to run away from home to go meet them. And pedophiles are teaching victims to groom and sexually victimize other children. This occurs at schools every day, even here. Traffickers target kids with a lot of vulnerabilities, but especially these that are up on the screen, substance use, desires of being loved, accepted, admired, and included. So pretty much everyone. Everybody wants to be loved. Everyone wants to have friends. They use that. Desires of making money. I recently had a case with a girl who was 14 and her boyfriend, using that term loosely, convinced her to put some videos on Pornhub. Said she was going to make a lot of money. And now she's 18. She can't get a job. She can't get into college because that stuff's following her around. She took it down, but if you Google her name, I Google her name, it still comes up. So it's following her. And to start with, it wasn't her fault. She was manipulated into doing it and then forced to continue doing it. Kids that are runaways or homeless in foster care system or recently out of the foster care system. These bad guys, you know, they prey upon you. They know how to manipulate you. They're brilliant at getting people to do what they want. Recent migration or relocation, you move to a new area, don't know anybody. The bad guys jump on that. Want to be your best friend. And then kids with a history of childhood sexual abuse. And then it's not unheard of for kids, especially girls, who disappear for a couple of days and then return home on their own to be actively being trafficked or in the process of being groomed. So someone's controlling them, but covering it up by allowing them to act normal, so to speak. That will never happen to me. That's what every kid says to me. Every kid that I talk to about this. Kids think they're invincible. I thought I was invincible when I was a kid. It's natural. But this is happening everywhere. I live in South Orange County in kind of a high income area. It's happening there. It's happening in low income areas. It happens everywhere. And these dangers are growing every day, again, especially with 5G making the internet accessible everywhere. And then when I talk to parents, when they call me about their missing kid, the parents say, my child would never do that. When I ask them if their child is talking to strangers online. That's the first thing I check when I get contacted by a parent about a missing child, is I want to check their internet. I want to know who they've been talking to. Because chances are really, really good someone convinced them to leave, either a friend or more often a stranger. People don't recognize stranger danger. Like, you know, you're taught out on the street to not talk to a stranger because they're dangerous. Online, it's the same thing. And a lot of people don't want to accept that because they think it's not real online, but it is real, and it can be dangerous. And then parents, I warn my kids about the dangers of social media. Have your parents told you to be careful online? Yeah, they need to tell you a lot more than that. Sextortion-related suicides can happen within a period of hours from a predator's initial contact with a child. The parents have no idea what's going on until it's too late. There have been cases where, especially teenage boys, happens more with teenage boys, have been contacted by a girl online, or someone they thought was a girl online, convinced to send an intimate photo or a video, and instantly the person on the other end demands money. And when the boy can't give them the money, they will literally say, you might as well just kill yourself because you're dead already. And that's because they threaten to send that video or photo out to everyone they know, their friends online, their family members, their school. They panic, they don't know what to do. So kids have killed themselves over that. There are ways to get out of that though. Ideally, you don't get into it in the first place, but if it happens, there are ways to get out of it. So So saying be careful isn't nearly enough. You probably won't like this part, but there should be a trusted adult who knows all your social media profiles and passwords. I know, privacy, right? When I get a missing child case and I want to go into their social media, if they have the passwords, I can get right in and I can find out who the child's been talking to. If they don't have their passwords, I have to hack into it, which I can do, but it takes hours. So think about that. If some bad guy has grabbed you and you're terrified, how long do you want to wait around while I figure out how to hack into your stuff and hopefully get leads on where you might be? Like, time is really, really, really of the essence in a situation like that. Your parents or trusted adults should know how many friends and followers you have. That's important because a lot of those profiles out there aren't real. You really should only friend or connect with people you know off the internet. And then a lot of them try to convince you to be an influencer to make money and become famous. That's what led to the Pornhub case that I was talking about. She thought she was going to make a ton of money. She didn't. Her boyfriend made some. She didn't make anything. And it's basically ruined her life at this point. And then, do you sleep with your phone or your laptop in your body? Anybody? No one's going to admit it. Okay.
Stop.
I did last night because I listen to music, but that's about it.
Okay. That's okay if that's what you're doing, but 87% of kids sleep with their device with them. And really, we say that shouldn't happen. Your device should be plugged in a different room charging or something during the night, because that's when predators like to make contact. You can't sleep and you're bored. Especially these days, people are inclined to go online. I do it. When I wake up at 3 in the morning, I go online. I have friends that also wake up at 3 in the morning. But women of a certain age are awake at 3 in the morning. I'm just saying. That's your future when you're old like me. And then, you don't know who you're communicating with in the middle of the night. And so it's a good idea really to just stay away from it. If you use your phone for your alarm, maybe you should get an alarm clock instead. So my advice to parents is to monitor your internet use. And again, this isn't just to invade your privacy, it's for your protection. They should have your passwords somewhere. It can be in a sealed envelope somewhere in the event of an emergency. But they technically own your phone. So they're really paying for your phone. That means they're loaning it to you to use. It's their phone until you're 18 years old and you're paying for it and sign the contract. So technically, you have no right to privacy on it. I know no one wants to agree to that, but my thing is not so that they can just spy on you, it's so that they can protect you if you need to. And people tell stories about that creepy white panel van that's out there that's grabbing kids. The internet is now that white panel van. It's way more dangerous than people are out on the street. Okay, and then talking to your parents or a trusted adult is really, really important. If someone creepy contacts you online or sends you an inappropriate photo, which will happen at some point in time if you're online, you need to tell someone. And then you block the person, but first you save the photo in case you need it later. So a friend of mine recently was concerned because her son, who was 14, started acting kind of strange. He started hiding his devices from her and was acting really nervous and just out of character, wasn't eating right, he was just acting strange. So she asked me if I would check out his stuff, his internet stuff. She knew he was being bullied at school, and that was red flag number 1 in this. She would enter his room, he would slam his laptop shut, which he'd never done before. She asked if something was going on, and he was like, as kids will be, no, it's good. And so she asked him if it was okay for me to check his stuff. He knows me, so he said okay. I think he knew we were going to do it without his permission, but we got his permission. So Instagram is his app of choice, so I checked there first. Everyone's got their favorite app. That's another thing. Your parents should know what that is. When I talk to parents, they'll go, oh, she or he loves Snapchat. That's the only one they're on. and then I get into their computer and they're on 15 different apps. So they need to know what you're on. When I checked his Instagram, I immediately noticed there was an adult male who'd been messaging him for a while. My client's son and the adult male had no mutual friends. That's a red flag. It was someone that friended him that didn't know anybody else that he knew. So if you get a random friend request and there's no connections at all, probably not a good idea to connect with them. Initial messages from the adult male included asking the boy his age, and then some general small talk. Asking your age is the #1 question that a predator does. So I have a bingo game I play sometimes online. And on there, my name's Kira, and my picture is a picture of a dog of mine that now lives in doggy heaven. So she's not actively out anywhere. And frequently in the chat, because there's a chat in every game online, someone will pop in and say, Kira, how old are you? And I, because I like to play with bad guys, say I'm 12. To see what they do. Most of the time they say, hey, can we talk somewhere else? That's like you being kidnapped on the street and the kidnapper taking you to a second location. What I love is that more and more often now when I say in there that I'm 12, other adults that are playing say don't talk to that person. So they know that it's dangerous to do that. But that happens. So this guy kept asking this boy questions. They included, do you have siblings? How old are they? Oftentimes they'll contact a teenager and they're really interested in the younger siblings. Do you like sports? What's your favorite food? Do you get along with your parents? That's also a red flag, because if you don't get along with your parents, they will use that to try to manipulate you. Have you had sex yet? That's huge. And the guy avoided answering any questions that the boy asked him. And they do that. They ask you questions, they want all of your information that they don't share with other people. The chatting was taking place on Instagram. However, the adult had asked the boy to move to another, more private location. Again, that's that second location thing. You never want to do that. He refused, and the guy got more persistent. When it was clear the boy was not going to change apps, the adult male began asking him to send some more interesting photos. The boy, being very smart, refused. A lot of kids don't refuse at that point. So luckily, he never sent any photos to this guy. He wasn't done yet though. The guy's still trying to manipulate him. Offered to pay him for photos. Asked him to meet him for ice cream and a movie. You never go meet a stranger anywhere for anything. Sent some photos to the boy that he claimed were him, which actually were not, because we later identified this guy. The boy didn't respond at all after refusing to send the photos. And it was at that point that his mom hired me to check out his internet. So after I reviewed all the Instagram, I checked his other social media as well, and this was done with his permission. He gave me his passwords, and then I checked to make sure there wasn't anything else that he hadn't shared. And then I met with the boy and his parents.Is dad was really mad that we checked out his stuff, like really, really mad. The kid was cool. He's like, you know, I told her she could do it, it's okay. And mom was very proud of him for not doing anything stupid or inappropriate. According to the Department of Homeland Security and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, kids, think about this, should not have smartphones or be online until they're at least 14 years old. Technically, all these apps that you're all using, you have to sign the thing saying that you're 14 and legally use them. Not that anyone does, because they want the small print. Something scarier is the average age that a child first sees pornography is 8. And that's on a smartphone that one of their friends, who's also 8, brings to school. So, in my opinion, and that of many others who deal with this stuff, if you're 8 and you need a phone, first of all, you don't need a phone, but if you're going to have a phone, it should be able to call mom, dad, and 911, maybe grandma or grandpa. It should have no online capabilities at all. So now, what are you sharing online when you're online? sharing private information isn't safe for you or your family members. And that's like the school you're going to, where you live, where you hang out. My social media has no privacy settings. Everything I put out there is okay for the whole world to see. And I do that because people get a false sense of security. My birthday is on there, but not the year. So if you want to put your month and the day, that's okay. Don't put the year. You don't want to put the year you graduated from high school. You don't want to put the city you live in. So when you're taking part, and then when you're taking part in a video chat, which I don't recommend unless it's someone you really, really, really know, the person you're chatting with, especially these bad guys, are really looking at who's behind you. You know, a lot of families think it's safe to put their computer in like the family room, thinking that that makes it okay. Well, predators will start chatting with you and they're looking at your younger sibling in the background. That's what they really want, is the younger kid. So you need to protect yourself from these guys and also your younger siblings and your friends. This is your chance to be their hero and help protect them from suspicious activity from predators out there. Now, because you guys are very, very smart, if you give your phone to your parents to look at, are there hidden apps on there? Many aren't, but many of you guys have those, I'm sure. Predators do too. They encourage you to use those. Someone looks guilty. No.
Yeah.
Sorry.
How do you
Sorry.
find those? Can you show us later?
I can.
Okay,
yeah.
good.
The most common place is in the calculator app. There's
Oh, see, I don't know any of this stuff.
almost every phone has a calculator app on it. Inside the calculator app, there's an app that's used called Keepsake, and that's Predator's favorite app to have people save pictures and videos in. And that's what they use to
Okay.
transfer them. But yes, they can be found fairly
And
easily.
how, okay.
But kids are smart; they know how to put them back.
Well,
So
not if they don't get them back, they won't.
that's true. It is your phone. I know I sound really mean, but it's the parents' phone. So the lady that actually created Million Kids, who I'm here representing, when I first spoke with her, I said, no one under age 18 has any right to privacy. And she said that's true. And she said with her kids, she loaned them a phone, and they had to let her look at it once a week. And if they didn't want her to look at it, she kept it. Because it was her phone,
That's what I say. I
Yeah.
pay for it.
right?
It's
It's
mine.
yours. And it's, I keep saying this, it's not a privacy thing, really. It's a protection thing. Because there's a lot of bad guys out there. So, if someone that you do not know hits you up online and tells you to not tell anyone about those interactions in a chat, the gaming system, on a video, they're dangerous and you should avoid them. Kind of common sense there. That would be like a stranger talking to you on the street. Better yet, you should tell a trusted adult about it. Because once they start looking at you in one app, chances are they're going to check and see what other apps you're on, and they can follow you around. I already went over this multiple times. Adults need to have access to your phone. And again, that's because I need to be able to quickly access your information if you go missing or if something bad happens.
Amen.
You don't want to wait around for hours while I'm looking at your stuff. Sorry, I wrote my own things on here. So, simple ways to identify an online predator. These are really, really easy to start with. They're not all quite this obvious, but number one question typically is, how old are you? And why would some stranger say, how old are you? There's really no reason. They often use an avatar as a profile photo. Like I used my doggy as my profile when I play bingo. They do that, or they have like a little cartoon photo or something. It's not them. And they invite you to leave the app where you originally contacted to go to a private chat. And again, that's taking you to that second location. TikTok is the most downloaded app in the world and a favorite app of pedophiles. There's a whole lot of other ones. Yeah, I don't even have TikTok on my phone, so I use it to track down bad guys, but I don't use it. I should say my alter ego has it on her phone, but I don't have it for mine personally. Other apps to avoid that are really commonly used by predators. This doesn't mean check these out. It means stay away from them. Discord is very, very popular. Omegle, seriously, if you have these, they're dangerous, so you should get rid of them. Omegle, Kick, Tinder, which is like a dating app, and none of you are old enough to be on there, but a lot of kids are. Meet Me, Crush Zone, and Scout are where a lot of these guys go looking for kids. Plenty of Fish, also allegedly an adult dating app, but there's all kinds of teenagers on there. Flirt Phones, OkCupid, Grindr, Whisper, and Hinge. And a lot of those are supposed to be dating apps or hookup apps, but none of you should ever be on any of those for any reason until you're like 50. Okay. That was a little extreme, but you know, as kids, you should not be on any of those apps. They really can be dangerous. So more signs to tell if who you're talking to is a predator. Your new friend provides no personal details. None, not one. You ask their name, they don't tell you their name. You ask where they live, they don't tell you. They just won't tell you anything, but they keep asking you questions because they want your personal information. You're doing all the giving and they're doing all the taking. Your friend requests additional or more personal photos. They might begin to talk more suggestively. They might love bomb you and make crazy promises, a high-paying job, or that they'll send you expensive gifts if you send them photos. They tell you not to tell anyone else about them. That's huge. That's like a child molester saying, don't tell mom. They want you to meet up with them. That's the most dangerous thing you can do. I'll talk about that in a minute. They threaten to harm themselves or you if you try to break off this non-existent relationship, because it's not real. If you're gay and your parents don't know, they'll offer to mentor you. And oftentimes they'll send photos or videos that they claim are them, but it's not. So, lots of kids run away. They get encouraged either to leave the house to go meet someone, or they just run away. There's all kinds of reasons kids run away. Sometimes it could be an argument with mom or dad. Sometimes it's just because. It varies dramatically. But, according to multiple district attorney's offices, a runaway child will be contacted by someone who will either attempt to get them to sell or use drugs, or will try to traffic them within 18 to 24 hours of leaving their home. That's another reason we need to be able to access your social media quickly. It doesn't matter where you live. If it's a dangerous area, high crime, low crime, secure, not, it doesn't make any difference. It's the same statistic. Social media. It's not uncommon for runaways to run to meet someone they met online. I've worked in many cases over the years where a 12 or 13-year-old girl or boy believed she or he was talking with someone their own age or possibly a year or two older. In reality, they're communicating with a predator. A few years ago, I had a girl that some parents called me, and their 12-year-old had gone to Disneyland with her friends, and she disappeared. So what happened was, she told her friends they were going to Disneyland and she was going to meet her new boyfriend. When they got there, the boyfriend texted her and said, hey, meet me over by the restrooms, by whatever it was, but come by yourself. And her friends let her, which was really stupid. If you're somewhere like that, you don't let your friend go off by yourself. That boy who she thought was 14 was a 45-year-old man who grabbed her and literally carried her through the park kicking and screaming. And no one did anything. The reason no one did anything is because the couple people that did say something, he just said, this is my daughter, she's off her meds, I'm taking her home. And they went, okay. And just let him take her. He took her phone and he dropped it in the parking lot, so she had no phone, so it couldn't be pinged and tracked that way. Finally, some guests at the park called 911. Security didn't do anything. They can't. They're not allowed to touch anybody. unless they're in danger, in physical danger, and they didn't know. So it was someone else at the park that called 911. By the time police got there, she'd been gone for like 20 minutes, which is forever, because he got out of the parking lot and took off. Someone did get the license plate number of the car. They ran that, and it was a stolen license plate. So no lead. They described the guy as 45, white, medium build, wearing a wrinkled Mickey Mouse t-shirt and looking homeless. So not a lot to go on. Luckily, the license plate ended up showing up on a license plate reader, which law enforcement has in their cars. That was 45 minutes later, 3 cities away and in a different county. And that's what they do. And this was very quickly. We found her within 2 hours, which to her was like forever because she was terrified. And she was taken to a strange place. And luckily, the perpetrator decided he desperately needed cigarettes. And so he left her in this seedy hotel room to go get cigarettes. And that's where we found her, by herself in this room. And we asked her why she didn't leave. She said, because he knows where I live, and he said he would go kill my little sister if I left. So she stayed. Luckily, she was found quickly, obviously extremely traumatized, but nothing else had happened to her, which is not often the case. But that's how these things work. She really thought she was madly in love with this 14-year-old boy, and she was going to run off into the sunset with him. So never, ever, ever, if you're somewhere, let your friend go alone to go meet somebody. Better yet, don't ever go meet somebody that you only know on the internet. So who are these predators? Anybody and everybody. It can be anyone. They can be doctors, nurses, physician's assistants, teachers, sports coaches, unfortunately, very commonly, teachers' aides, priests, ministers, youth group leaders, members of the military, law enforcement officers, mom or dad's new love interest. And then there's that creepy guy that lives in his mom's basement that people talk about, hangs out on the internet. Those are the rarest ones, I have to say. And then I can't say this one enough, the dangers of a new location. When discussing stranger danger with anyone, the threat is to never, ever, ever go to a second location. If someone grabs you on the street and they want to put you in a car, kick, scream, do whatever. Do not let them get you in the car. You do not want to go to a second location. It's the same thing online. It's like being kidnapped. Especially if they want you to go to a private chat. And then a sort of new thing in the news anyway. This has been going on for a long time, but it's in the news a lot. They're talking about artificial intelligence